we can view it later. All right, so this is recording. So, all right. Okay, I shall start. Make sure I'm sharing screen. Okay, excellent. So this is, oh, sorry, why am I calculator coming up? All right, so this is our topic for the day, managing a team. One of the objectives of Shell LiveWIRE, after you've validated your idea, you've come up with a right business model, you look at your financial aspect of your business, you've conducted the research to support and ensure that you lower your risk. I think one of the key things from Shell LiveWIRE is to create jobs for the community, right? I think it's an investment that Shell puts in, apart from helping budding entrepreneurs, is also to create multiplier effect where we actually help the community. But on top of that, we want entrepreneurs to shift from owner operator, meaning that the person who actually owns the business, they are the one doing everything, to an owner manager, where they own the business and they're able to delegate and empower others to work with them in order to generate better result, better impact for their business. So this is a very important topic, I feel, and I'm looking forward to the engagement that we'll be having today with all of you. All right. All right. So today the outline is we will look at an introduction of to managing a team. Why should we empower our team? Right. The idea is you need to have a level of trust and you have to develop your team in order to empower them. You can't empower everybody, as we'll discuss in the coming slides, right? And then we look at situational leadership. This is what I meant by you can't empower everybody, but there are situations where you need a different leadership approach. So we'll look at that on the second part of our lessons today. And number 3, we will look at feedback and coaching. What is the difference between feedback and coaching? And as a owner manager, as an entrepreneur, you need to continually give feedback and coach your team, right? So we'll look at these 3 areas today, and then we will discuss and answer some questions from any questions related to the topic of managing a team. So introduction to managing a team. All right, so we're going to do one activity. What word do you want to use when describing your team? So we want you to write down words on Post-its and put them on the wall. And for this exercise, because it's just a fun, almost an icebreaker or introduction to the topic today, you just put one word per Post-its. So Amanina will now share a link on the chat group, and then I'm going to click on it as well. And I want you guys to just put one word on the Jamboard post that Jamboard wall that I've created, right? For Crystal and Moses, because you're like 2 of you in one screen, maybe you can put 2 words. The others can participate as well, and we'll see. It can be the same word. Don't worry about it. It's the first thing that comes to your mind, or the thing that you think is important when describing your team. Right. Okay, that's the link there. You can click on it. Huh? Okay. So on my wall here, I've put up one word, which is committed. So when describing my team, I see Amanina as being very committed because she's willing to work on weekends and never complain. So when describing my team, I use the word committed. So if you want to generate your Post-its, you just click on the sticky note and just write a note and just move it around the wall. Anyone having issues entering the Jamboard? Give it a try first. The link is on the chat, yeah, guys? Just click on the chat and post a Post-it on the Jamboard. It's as easy as clicking on the left-hand side. There's I think an icon that says sticky note. Just click on that, right? Amanina, you can participate as well. The link is waiting for the link still. All right, let me share the link then, if you guys can't see it. Can you guys see the link for everyone? I think Amanina accidentally posted it on the waiting room. All right. All right, excellent. So I'm seeing words like explore, efficient, when you want to use when describing your team. I don't know what nakama is. Maybe later somebody can help me with that. Is it like a local language like Bahasa Iban or Bahasa Melanau? Don't laugh at me, huh? Cooperative. Can we see more words? Anyone having issue with the link? Accountability, right? Ambitious, that's very good. You can choose your color, it's fine. Okay, maybe I'll put one word there, right? I think for me, it's very important for teams to be supportive, right? Because at the end of the day, that's why you need your team. You need them to support each other, right? So I'm going to put the word supportive there. Any other words, guys? Come on. Norazita, are you having issue with the link? Dennis said he can't enter the link. Let me give you the link again, Dennis, and I think okay. Some are saying on the wall here, adaptive, but we are. If you're on the wall, you can see that. I think maybe because you're, should be okay because this is by Google. Team Spirit. Okay. But generally, it sounds very positive. I do know like some team have a negative description if they want to describe their current team. Maybe the current team lack, not hardworking enough or something, right? Cooperative, accountability, ambitious, thinking outside the box is a word that you want to use to describe your team. Hey, why are you moving my my title? Adaptive, right? If you are unable to get into the Jamboard, you can just type it on the chat room. It's fine. Maybe I'll help Kiawe to insert his adaptive. Kiawe, maybe put it green, huh? All right. So adaptive is there. Adaptive in green as well. So quality. So for some of you that just joined, you can join us on the Jamboard, or maybe we'll open it for another 2 minutes. This is the link, because I noticed some people just joined just now. So creative, team spirit, adaptive, relentless, motivated, is hiding something. All right. Okay, independent, cooperative. These are some words. I think they're still coming, so I'm still gonna continue with this before we move on. Help reduce my stress. That's very true. Having your team member help you to reduce your stress. I can vouch for that as well. Okay. Let's just clear the space so that others can see others' posts, right? Right. Responsible. That's good. Generally, everybody is having a very positive outlook with their team. Fast, aligned. Move this to the side. Driven, proactive. It's not bad, huh? Responsible. All right. Excellent. Trusted. I think these are generally things that we expect from our team member. Committed. Dennis, yes. Committed is there as well. Hardworking. Excellent. All right. That's jiwa kental. All right. Jiwa kental means, I think like tahan lasak, like that, right? Okay. Haja Fitria, welcome to the class. Today, basically, right now we're doing an activity on a Google Jamboard where everybody's posting what do they want to, the words that they want to use when describing their team. Right? Hard work, open-minded. Okay. Some of you are just joining, so I'm reposting the Jamboard. But we can continue later as well. Right? Maybe at the end, if we have time, we can revisit this. So I'm just going to share again the link. Lean. Lean is very important. For startup, I totally agree with the word lean because, you know, nowadays, even large organizations are very lean, right? I mean, I work with the German, a stakeholder from Germany where their office for Malaysia is only like two staff, right? So it's not uncommon. I think with technology, it is changing how people are working, and people are realizing as well how efficient they can be with the use of technology. Passionate, excellent. All right, guys, let's wrap up this activity for now. But basically, we get an idea of the word that we want to use. People with critical thinking, people who are curious, people who are driven, they're hardworking. So excellent, right? So this is Google Jamboard. It's free to use. And if you want to brainstorm with your team as well, I would encourage you to continue using the same Jamboard. Just make sure that you turn on the link that everybody can actually edit the Jamboard, right? All right, let's get back to the lecture today because we spent about 70 minutes on that, right? So for all the words there, we're going to focus on one word in particular, right? It's similar to, it's supportive, but it can be linked to accountability. It can be linked to teamwork. It can be linked to committed. But if we want to wrap up the word for the purpose of our discussion today, the word would be supportive, right? This is one word we expect from our team. That means that they support you, and as the entrepreneur, as the bosses, you need to support them as well. All right? Okay. So take a pause for a bit. I know we're a bit hot just now doing our brainstorming. All right. So let's focus back on our class today on managing a team, and we're going to focus on one area in particular, which is being supportive. So why should you care about empowering your team, right? By being supportive, it means that you need to help them to grow. You have to help them be happy, to help them be more productive. So in caring about empowering your team, you basically are doing three things. Number one is, this is what we want. We want to increase productivity. On average in Malaysia, one employee, the productivity is about 75,000 ringgit. That means that if you're currently generating about 75,000 ringgit or 100,000 ringgit and you want to increase your productivity, it means that you need to grow your team, right? So people need to believe that they have a sense of control. By empowering them, then they're actually feeling fulfilled in their job, right? They feel engaged. And when you have staff that do not care anymore, right? This is when you lose a lot of money, right? In the US, apathy or the feeling of not caring about the work is costing businesses 500 billion US dollar per year. They keep making mistakes. They're not motivated. They may be not working as fast as some of the Jamboard was posting earlier, some of the sticky notes that you posted. So you need to keep people feeling that they're empowered, they are trusted, and they are part of the team. That's why we use the word managing a team, not a staff, right? Number two, by empowering them, they can be more proactive, meaning that they might come up with initiatives, they might help you anticipate some issues or some solutions. So by empowering a team, businesses actually benefits, right? So it's a trust level as well, where they trust that you will look after them and you can actually focus on other things because you can trust that your team member care and are really committed to the job that they're doing, right? And thirdly is you will give them greater happiness, because with many businesses, high turnover is a problem. Every time you lose a staff, you need to rehire, then it will take time for you to train them again, to get them familiar with your processes and all that. So by increasing happiness, by increasing the sense that they are empowered and they belong there, it's a win-win, right? Meaning that the employee wins because basically you spend about 8-9 hours a day at work. There's a lot of time in your life, and you at least want to be feeling that you're happy at work, right? So I think that's very important. And for businesses, how do I get quality team? Somebody's asking the question. I'll respond to you at the end of the section, Marwan, right? So these are basically three reasons why, as employers, as managers, you need to empower your team, right? So it will help you be more proactive. You'll get a more proactive employee. And when your employee are happier, then it just creates a nice culture at work. I think that's very important, right? So founders struggle when their businesses starts to grow and they have to become managers, right? Maybe it's easy to manage when you're just a team of founders or when it's a smaller team. But once you grow, it's very difficult to manage everything because you might have hundreds or thousands of clients, right? If you're in an online business, or you might have a lot of clients, each one of them with their own requirements and needs. So for businesses, I think they start to struggle if they do not trust their staff, right? I've seen many businesses where you have a very intelligent, smart, brilliant person at the top, and then their staff are just basically taking instructions, right? It's very difficult because what happened when the managers or the owners are engaged with other duties and all that? How does businesses move on? So in this sense, you have to delegate and support and empower your staff accordingly. So I talk about delegate. It's very important to delegate because for me, when you hire somebody, right, they come with certain expertise. Even graduates, graduates, they are trained for 4 or 5 years. So they have certain expertise that maybe you as a business owner do not have yourself, right? Or if you hire from somebody with some experience, they have certain expertise. So you need to trust and leverage and make use of that expertise that's available for your business. It is actually, it's a bit cliche, but it is an asset, right? So you need to leverage on the expertise of your team member. And number two, delegating also allow you to train and teach them, right? This is called tacit knowledge, where sometimes it's theoretical. You read something, or you see a chart on the processes and all that. Until somebody actually do it, they are actually not learning. So delegating allow you to teach your staff or your team members so that they can learn new skills and new knowledge, right? So in teaching as well, sometimes it may not be perfect, but later on we'll discuss how do you give feedback, how do you coach your team. So it's part of delegating as well. And number three, again, this is so important because as the business grow, I think the manager or the owner shift from being the person who has to execute to being a person who have to strategize and look at the direction and the future of the business. So by allowing others to take on certain responsibilities, it allows you to actually plan, What am I going to do in 2021? What am I going to do in this quarter? How am I going to address certain risks or certain issues that may arise in my business? So you're not able to do that if you are focused making drinks, if you are focused cutting wood, or if you're focused in the daily transactional sales. So delegating is so powerful and so important for any business if you want to grow. Right? So why some owners have problem with delegating, right? The biggest problem is you always want to have full control, right? I myself admit sometimes that you want to do things your way and all that, and you do not trust, maybe because the timeline is so short. What if there's a mistake and all that? But in actual fact, you should lean more towards delegating and trusting. And even if you can't do that, you can include them and work together so that maybe you are doing 70% of the work, your team member are doing 30% of the work, or you're doing 60% of the work and your team member can do some of the 40% of the work. So after some time, when you start to delegate and the person gets more comfortable with the business, and you can actually shift the balance, or maybe the work now is 30% of 40% you and 60% your team member. And that frees up your time for other work that can generate other value, a bigger value perhaps for your business. All right, so let's answer some question about the opening part, right? So for businesses, it's very important to shift as you grow from owner-operator to owner-manager. And in order to do that, one of the key things about being a manager is delegating responsibilities to your team. So I got one question just now from Marzwan. How do I get quality team? I think there's many ways of answering that. I think one of it is to make sure that you have a robust hiring system. You need to ask the right questions when you're interviewing someone. And thirdly, you want to look at the fit between the job and the person that you are assigning for the job. I think it's one of the challenges. I think the person working has to be very clear as well, what is expected of them, right? I think nowadays it's easier because of their Facebook allow you to post for jobs. You can post jobs on Job Street. I'm not sure how much fees they take, but you can also post jobs on LinkedIn. You can, in my case, for example, sometimes I ask friends at universities, because I happen to used to work at universities and work a lot with many universities, where if they have graduates and all that, maybe they can advertise or even refer them to me, right? So I think the key thing is the selection process. I think you want to get a large number in order for you to identify the ones that may have the quality, right? So I hope that answers your question, Marwan. Sarah. Okay, for me, one of the most basic way of training your team is, one thing is to onboard them, make sure they have materials like your websites or your HR manual that you may have created, and maybe having a one-to-one session for maybe about an hour or two if you're a small team, and just talking with them on what are the expectations both from your end and also from their end. I think onboarding is something that you should consider. Like maybe the first week, you take your staff for lunch and you can talk in a more informal setting and then get to know each other better. And next, you can also look at the probation period, right? During the probation period, maybe it's 1 month, maybe it's 3 months, maybe it's 6 months for some companies. You can look at that as a time where it's training, right? Your staff is actually doing work, but they're on training wheels. So you want them to learn as fast as they can. And if they don't know something, you want them to ask within that 3 months, because that's the window where I think it's still okay for them to not be completely perfect. Or it's also for the bosses or the business owners as well. It is for you to adjust to your team member as well. I like to ask my team member, for example, are you a morning person? Are you a late night person? Or another question that I like to ask them is, Are you very fast, or do you need time to process? So by doing that, it allows me to tailor my management style to my team member, right? So those are some things. I think one of the right way of training is to ask a lot of questions and to ask them to ask a lot of questions. I think one of the key signs of a poor employee is they don't ask questions, meaning that they're waiting to be instructed. And unfortunately, when that happens, I will also switch to instruction mode, which is not a pleasant way, right, of working. So encourage your team member to ask questions, right? If you don't understand something, ask question, because if you don't ask, then we may have a problem, right? All right. But at the same time, again, during probation, it's okay to make mistakes. Tell them it's okay to make mistakes and learn from that mistake. That is very important. All right. Okay. So that's some early questions. Like I said, the topic today is very interesting because we're dealing with people, and normally it's easy to deal with technology, it's easy to deal with contracts and legal terms, but when dealing with people, it's not that simple, right? All right, so now we go on the leadership style. I think this is the most important part. Maybe there's two important parts. This is one of them, is when you're a leader, right? When you're a manager, you have to manage according to the situation. Not every situation is the same. So we're gonna look at the different situation and what type of leadership or management style that you need to use to address certain situations, right? This one, you may not get it the first time around, but over time, right? After you have several staff, or after you've had like a period, like a year or a certain period, then it just comes automatically. But I find this to be very useful, that so that you don't apply the wrong technique at the wrong situation, right? All right. So one frame to help us delegate is to use situational leadership. So situational leadership is adapting your leadership approach to specific situation and people. The focus here is on leader to modify behavior depending on the direct reports. Direct reports here means people who are working under you, right, in the hierarchy of the business. There are four main leadership approach. Number one is directing. Number two is including. Number three is supporting. And the best is empowering and delegating, right? So where do we use directing? Where do we use including? Where do you use supporting? And where do you use delegating? So basically, there's two types here. When I say confidence on the left side of the graph, I also mean the will, because not everybody has the will. If I can use bahasa, right? You have some staff who tak semangat, you know? So how do you work with people with no semangat, right? No will, no confidence, no initiative, right? So we look at one aspect of when we apply which type of leadership approach when we have a low confidence, low will, low initiative employee, and when we have a high confidence, high will, high initiative employee. And the second part is to look at competence. Sometimes you are very energetic, very enthusiastic, but you don't have competence. So how do you deal with that? And what type of employees don't have such competence, but have a high confidence? Next, we look at what happened when they have high competence, but low willpower, low initiative, right? I'll share with you in the coming slides examples of when the situation arises, all right? So number one, we look here, we can say that it's both low in willpower and low on competence, right? So what is this? So normally, this happens. Can I talk a bit candidly here? Maybe you have somebody who's just taking a job because they have to, right? Maybe these are people like, they're not very motivated. They hang out with people who are not ambitious. I don't want to use like mat rempit and all that, but I don't know. I've never hang out with mat rempit, but maybe people like that who enjoy entertainment, who likes to play around, but work is just something that they need to pay for their petrol or monthly installment of their bikes, maybe, right? So for these people, they are low on competence and low on initiative and willpower. I'm not judging here. They might be mak rempit who are engineers and pilots and all that. So I'm sorry if any of you are mak rempits. So when you have this type of staff, you have to just direct them. You have to instruct them. Because if you allow them to do things on their own, they don't have the competence and they don't have the willpower. Or maybe you ask them to do something and ask them to manage it, they might end up going to kedai kopi or coffee shop, or they might end up, sleeping under the desk, right? So for this type of people, you have to be a bit strict to them and you have to tell them, I want it by this, get it done, this is how you do it, right? So that's one approach when you have this type of staff. And normally, depending on the business that you are in and depending on the salary that you're paying, I would avoid this type of people, right? Unless they want to improve themselves, then I would gladly take them and support them so that they become better, right? All right. Next, this is people with high confidence but low competence. All right. Take a moment for a while and think about who do you think have high confidence and low competence? Meaning that they are enthusiastic, they are like bubbly, they turn up at the office early, they leave at the office late, but low in competence. These are normally fresh graduates and young people, right? Unfortunately, this is not the case with all young people. I do see young people a bit like want to kerja government and all that, so they don't seem very confident and ambitious. But in general, this group of people normally falls under the younger people because they're very confident, but they just lack certain experience. And I don't fault them, right? I think studying and working is two different things. But when you have this type of people, you need to work closer with them, right? I find this to be true with younger people because they are willing to be trained and to be taught. And that's what I love about working with young people as well. Maybe I'm a bit biased because I used to be a lecturer. But with this type of people, what you do is you can actually involve them in the work, right? Sometimes if you're a manager and you have a lot of staff, maybe 20 staff or 50 staff, you can't always do that. But maybe what you can do is maybe 5 or 3 of you, after work, you can sit down with me. I'll show you how we can do this. And normally they're willing because at this stage, they don't have so much commitment. They are like, don't have kids yet. They don't have like responsibilities and to cook for their husbands or pick up their wives and all that. So these are actually a very good people to hire. One thing is they're not too expensive yet, right? Soon, if they have the right attitude, they will be very expensive. But at the same time, they're open and willing to be trained, right? So you don't want the early part, like I said, low competence, low confidence. But if they are low in competence but high in willingness to work, perfect. Take them, train them, grow them, and it will be a great win-win relationship both for your business and for the people that you hire. This is the third part. They are a little bit low on confidence, not as bad as the earlier example, the first example, but they are highly competent. So these are people maybe in their 30s or 40s. They have some experience. They've worked at some organization. And maybe they're a little bit low on confidence because they've worked a bit longer, so they feel like every work is the same and all that. So for this group of people, the key thing here is to provide them support, right? Sometimes talk to them, be their peers, talk to them, not like talking down to them, but be there side by side alongside them. So you can help these people give you the value because they're definitely higher on competence. And the best type of employees, and normally the entrepreneurs are like this themselves, or maybe your partners, are the one with high confidence and high competence, right? The problem with hiring people with high confidence and high competence, if they're not your team, if you're not your fellow founders, these people will be very expensive and they know their worth. But if you can afford it, they can give a lot of value for your business. But the challenge as well is you're competing with the large companies like Airbus and Microsoft and Google, or any of the top companies like Shell, for example, in hiring them. So with many businesses, we are usually dealing with the second and third part of the business. But if you can find one that are empowered and confident and competent, more power to you, right? So here, we look at some examples here. Like I said just now, low will and confidence, you direct them. They have low skill drives and low will. So just direct them, right? And normally, once I see this, I straight away go on that directing mode. Just get me done here and here and here. But give people some chance. Maybe they're a bit shy. Maybe they are in the high will but low confidence, but they seem like that because of the body language, because of the language that they use, maybe. So don't punish people before giving them a chance, right? Number two is including overconfident but not able to deliver. This is a lot of fresh graduates are like this. No problem, boss, I'll do it. But when they do it, you see mistakes and all that. But it's okay. You can give feedback to them, but at the same time, help them to improve, help them that you know that this is also partly a job, partly training for them. So number three, low will and high confidence. Then you need to be a bit more supportive. Talk to them, treat them as some, appreciate and acknowledge their competencies, right? And lastly, ready, willing, and able, empower. Once you have this type of staff, they are independent, even if they can't do everything, but in their specific area, maybe it's HR, maybe it's operations, maybe it's marketing. If they are high competent and high willingness, just empower them. Tell them that, tell me what you need, and I will get it available for you so that you can perform your best. All right. Some do's and don'ts when empowering your team. Empower people once they have demonstrated they have the capacity to handle the responsibility. Don't empower people too early because sometimes you may misread the situation and it may become problematic. Why? Because as a business, you not only are thinking about your team, but you're also thinking about your client and all that. So don't go full 100% in the beginning. Slowly give them and delegate some responsibility. And once you see that they've demonstrated that, then you can empower them, right? Number two, create a learning environment. Always be open to answer questions. Some bosses get annoyed when they are asked questions. I don't understand that actually, right? When people want to learn, it is actually to the benefit of your business. So create a learning environment, encourage your staff to go for training, encourage your staff to ask questions, and tell them it's okay to make mistakes, right? But give time for the mistake to be corrected. So when you're delegating work, make sure that you account for the possibility of mistakes, right? Give people some autonomy over their tasks and resources. Don't check and micromanage on everything. This comes to the next don'ts here, right? So give people some autonomy and don't micromanage. Only talk to them. I always advise that when you want to reprimand someone, do it individually. But if you want to praise someone, you can praise them publicly, right? And then don't revert back to old habits during stressful times, meaning that if you are a micromanager, but when it's stressful, then you go back to your old habits of micromanaging. Remember the situational analysis and remember how do you want to make your team become more proactive and more happy at the workplace. And once you've empowered, give them the chance to go with the decision. Don't second guess them. Don't change the decision because sometimes there's no one right decision. There's many right ways. So give allowance for your team member to make decision without you second guessing them, right? All right. So let's take some questions on the situational analysis. Any question on situational analysis, guys? Situational leadership, sorry. Situational analysis is another thing. Have you encountered any staff who are who are in low confidence and low competence? Anyone is blessed with a high competence and high confidence team? Okay, Seth. Exactly. As I mentioned just now, Seth, Seth is asking, based on the different type of employees, how do you motivate and discipline them differently? I think we'll actually discuss that once we look at the feedback section of today's lecture. But just broadly, I think you need to be consistent with your style. Like for me, I try my best to nurture my team member, although some people may not like that nurturing part because it feels like they're in class all the time. So find out your style, but at the same time, you have to be caring about your employees, at the same time firm. You cannot just be firm but not care about your staff, right? Or you cannot be caring but not firm, meaning that you avoid conflicts and all that. So as a manager, you have to put the hat that it is a role that you play, right? In terms of motivating, there's many ways to motivate. Some people, they go on the system where they give bonuses, they give incentives. Some people can just give praise. Giving praise is very important. People want to feel acknowledged and they want to feel a sense of belonging. So that is important, but at the same time, they need to know that we depend on each other. We are a team. And if things go wrong as the manager, I have the responsibility and the task to actually give feedback and provide coaching, right? When to let go of ineffective team member? I think after giving them ample chance, again, even the normal HR practice, what you do is you need to first give them a warning, talk to them, tell them that, you know, this cannot continue. If you're ineffective, we need you to pull your weight, or you haven't met the expectations. So one way to do that is to measure based on fair key performance index, meaning that what is the target, meaning that you have to deliver on time, you have to come on work on time, you have to be productive by certain measurement. So after you provide feedback to them, you need to actually sit down with them and say, we will observe this for 1 month and we hope to see some improvements. And if it still doesn't improve, then even then you can issue like a warning letter. And if it still persists, the meaning that maybe for whatever reason, the person may be having personal issues, the person may be maybe it's not the right fit for the job, then maybe it's best to part way, because at the end of the day, I think the company takes is more important, and you need to make sure that, because the company supports many people, right? So if one person is problematic, I think after giving them fair chance, right? For me, it's not, as a boss, you should not be like a dictator, right? You know, something goes wrong, you just fire them. And it should not be like that, because at the end of the day, you also need your employees, right? Okay, Crystal asked me a fantastic question, because this module is from Shell. It's a bit, I mean, it's good, but you know, we only have 1 hour, right? I actually have exercises where you can develop your company culture. One of the way is, for me, is to create a team agreement. Like for me, a team agreement meaning that we have to be professional, we have to be friendly with each other. We don't talk about other people behind their back. We don't gossip against each other, or we don't gossip in the office. So having a written team agreement is a good way to start off with your company culture. So that's number 1, Crystal. There are many techniques. Number 2 is, I would encourage for you guys to have a ritual, just like a family. When you're a family, you have a ritual where on weekends you eat together as a team, right? Or on certain nights, you may watch movies together. So for me, creating that culture, but there's not too much of watching movies and and eating together. It has to be work as well, but including some of that non-work stuff actually help you to develop a culture with your team, right? Other ways of creating culture is dress code. If it's a less formal setting, then maybe the culture will become less formal. But if you're in a very formal business, maybe previously finance, other finance, I do see a shift now in being less formal. Then dress codes is another way where you can create company culture. A person that I know, for example, her office actually have once the first Thursday of the month, they wear like costumes to work, meaning that they have themes. So this week the theme is goth. So everybody on that Thursday come to work in the goth clothing. So it's quite fun actually, right? So those are some ways, and it's good to have it in written form as well. Other ways of creating culture is to have very clear what are your vision and purpose of your business, and everybody needs to know that this is what we work for, this is why we come to work, and what are the values that we have here: honesty, integrity, respect, um, um, learning together. So those can help you set up your company culture. All right, so I hope I've answered some of the questions, and if you have more questions or you have anything that you're still curious about the subject, Crystal or Sarah or Seth or Hisham. Hisham is also asking. Let me just answer Hisham before I move on. How to handle team burnout with startup level budget? I think the key thing is about having that culture. I think having short breaks. As a boss as well, you need to really observe if the team performance is dropping, for example. Maybe you can talk to them. Maybe you can ask them to come to work at 10 o'clock or take a half day, or there's many ways. It's infinite ways, and it's always evolving and changing. Some businesses, some companies that I've worked with in the past, we've had flexi hours. You know, when I was a lecturer at the university before, we need to come to work 10 to 3 unless we have class. So anything else, we're quite flexible. So that's one example. Number two, one organization that I work with, they have one day where you can work from home, because they know that sometimes you need to go pay your bills or do whatever errands that you need to do. So that's one way. Okay. AJ, very good point. AJ is like, do we need to create a line between you and your employees? I think yes and no. I don't think the line needs to be clear all the time. That, you know, for me, depends on the industry where you work in. I think, like for me, I always try to be the nice boss, I guess, but at the same time, I know I have to be firm, because if I'm not firm, then it affects other parts. I particularly care about my clients, so I don't want it to be so loose that it's affecting the quality of our work, right? So sometimes you can set the boundaries with your team members. Again, later on you'll see in management, you have to find your own style. Not everybody can be the friendly type. Some people need to be a bit the firm type, but it doesn't mean one way is more effective than the other. I was just chatting with a friend last week, where she shares about her boss, where her boss is actually somebody who's like very socially awkward, but they respect him because he's effective and all that, right? So it's very different for each person, right? So if you're not a chatty person, it's very hard for you to try to be someone else, I guess, right? So, but at the end of the day, you have to balance between being firm and keeping your employees motivated. Because if you're just firm, then you have high turnover, and it's very challenging for you as well in the long run, right? All right, let's look at feedback and coaching. This is so important because a lot of managers, they don't know how to become managers. For example, you're so used to being involved in your product. If you run a creative agency, you're so used to art directing, you're so used to being fabulous and creative and all that, but you're not used to being a boss. So one of the key things about being a manager, being a boss, or being a director or CEO is your role in actually setting the direction, but at the same time managing people that are working with you, right? So feedback and coaching. So feedback is actually focused on what happened. It's a reaction, right? So it's telling and advice oriented. You evaluate it, and you need to make people aware of the impact of their behaviors. And it is also an essential part of coaching, meaning that you coach people for what they need to change in the future, but feedback is important because you need to tell them that, why am I giving this feedback? What has happened, right? And sometimes I understand you don't always have the time to give longer feedback, but you have to give feedback immediately. But over time, people need to understand why you want things done a certain way, or what happened that you need to give them feedback, right? Number two is coaching. Coaching is future behavior, it's developmental. It allows people to reflect, inquire about themselves, and used to help release potential in a way that works best for the individual and the organization. You have to see your employees, not all of them, if they are not willing, right? But if they are willing, you want to help them uncover and unleash their potential. And coaching is one way of doing that, right? Coaching is looking at the agenda, maybe asking your employee, where do you think you need to improve? So rather than telling them, this is what you've done wrong, coaching is more, do you agree that uh, maybe you need to improve in certain areas? So if you don't agree, then why, or what makes you say so, right? So when we look at feedback, here are some key strategies. We have a core structure of giving feedback. Always tell people that it is from my observation that this is happening, right? And the employee also has to be open to receiving feedback, because that is just the dynamics and synergy between a manager and an employee, right? Find your voice, but vary your style. Don't be on like one mode, like belete all the time. Sometimes you need to vary your style. Sometimes you take a softer approach. Sometimes you take a firmer approach. And sometimes you just let it be, let it cool down, and let's see whether there's some improvement, right? Good feedback can be done quickly, meaning that, but praise is easy. Good job, great job, thanks for that, right? I think it's good to continually speak with your team member and for them to speak to you as well, right? And you have to find a balance between positive and constructive feedback. Constructive feedback is more of things that they need to improve, and positive is basically just things that they have done well. So this is the core structure of giving a feedback. You can tell people that I noticed that you were not talking to people during that event, right? You were on the corner and you were talking with your colleagues. But, so the effect on this is you miss an opportunity to sort of maybe do your job as a marketing person, or you miss that opportunity to practice, right, your communication skills. And then you pause. So do you understand what I'm saying? Does it make sense? Do you see my point? And then you can make a suggestion. I think next time in the future, I prefer that maybe one of you sit at one corner, the other person goes at the other corner, or talk to people that you don't know. I suggest maybe you take a name card, and that can be part of our leads for our business, right? Or for example, right? Or I noticed that you keep coming in late, right? Or you come on time. So the effect on that is, maybe I'm just using this example. You're paid 9 to 6, but you actually start work at 9:15 because you're just setting up your desk at 9, right? So I think you should come earlier, because the work time means that work time, not coming in time, right? So for example, so do you see my point? So my suggestion is maybe you can leave earlier, or maybe, how, right? I do not know, right? Just an example. This is varying your style. Some people are more rational, so some people are more intellectual, some people are more intuitive, some people are more instinctive. So I think it's good to know how you are, and then from there, you look at, maybe this way is not working, maybe I'll try to rationalize with this person. Maybe I need to show a bit of emotion. I need to be more intuitive, because logic doesn't seem to work with this person, or emotion doesn't seem to work. Maybe you need to use other ways, right? So Again, this is just one example of an approach. But the key thing here is to vary your voice, vary your style. Sometimes it can be in email, sometimes it can be on WhatsApp maybe, sometimes it can be a group feedback, sometimes it can be one-on-one, right? Delivering rapid feedback. Rapid feedback is very useful tool. Don't wait for it to be too long, because it creates a culture that you're transparent and you're always communicating with your team, right? Sometimes some organization, they give feedback every 1 year. So maybe the boss made some note in January, and then come December or November when they want to do the appraisal, the thing is resolved, or maybe the employee don't remember doing that, right? So try to give feedback regularly, immediately, weekly, monthly maybe, right? However, we don't do it as often as we should, as I was sharing just now. Delivering feedback early can be very useful, but you must follow format. Watch out for these pitfalls, right? Don't replace longer feedback sessions. Don't make it overwhelming, and control your emotions when giving feedback. It can be very hard for some people to control their emotion, right? So one way is, don't praise people for too long. It can be very awkward to get like a 1 hour praise, but just take 1 minute. Okay, I'm going to praise Seth, for example. I'm going to praise Dennis, right? Dennis, you've been very committed. Every week you come on time and you are very active in the chat room. I'm very happy with that. I hope you can keep it up. So that's 1 minute praise, right? So the other way is also to keep your sanctioning or constructive feedback to 1 minute as well. Don't take it too long. There are bosses that will have like 1 day just complaining about one thing. I've heard the horror story so many times, right? So maybe just tell people very quickly, why were you late? This cannot continue. I'm monitoring this. I hope you can change and this not happen again. I hope you find ways to resolve this, right? Or maybe you can text me the day before if you're going to come late today, for example, right? This is very important, actually. The last point is very important. Once you advise people, it's over, it's over. Don't like keep bringing it up after 5 years and all that, right? Remind people that when you are criticizing them or giving constructive feedback, you value them. You have a problem with the action, not with the person, right? That's number one. Name the problem, not the person, right? I don't want people to be late. That's number one. But you don't say, I don't want people to be like, I know, I'm going to pick a random name here, like Bob, for example. Then you are like blaming the person rather than the action. Some feedback on tips. Is it a common understanding? Sometimes it can be a misunderstanding, right? So make sure that both of you are aware that it is like, for example, work hours is simplest example. I'm sorry I keep mentioning this up. People are aware that they have to come on time, or it's not flexible, right? So if the one person think that it's flexible, one person think it's not, then you need to get to a common understanding. Prioritize the most important piece of the feedback is. Sometimes there are a lot of things to say, but you need to before you comment on somebody. I suggest have a think of what is it that you want solved actually. What is so important? What feedback is a priority now, right? And make sure that it is clear. Make sure that you don't have to repeat the same feedback again and again. How are you going to make it stick, right? All right. So here are some key strategies to giving feedback. There is a ratio, meaning that you don't want to criticize people all the time because it can be very negative energy and all that. So here it is suggesting that at least 6 praise to 1 sanction or 1 negative feedback. But I've seen in some cases 4 praise and 1 feedback. But the general idea is praise more than when you criticize. All right, guys? So if you want to be critical of your team member, ask yourself, have I given any support by acknowledging what good things that they have done, right? All right. So any question on feedback and coaching? Any questions on coaching, guys? Coaching and feedback. Do you have any experience or any problems that you want to bring up um, uh, where you are having some challenge addressing them, right? Or if you have some experience in the past, how about the outsourcers, sir? I think with the outsourcers as well, coming back to what I shared with Crystal earlier, I think the key thing is to have a common agreement on what are the expectations, right? Sometimes it can be functional, meaning that you can have a timeline or deadline, meaning that whenever you are communicated, I expect a response every by 24 hours or by 4 hours or by 6 hours or by 8 hours. So that allow you to sort of like monitor whether you are working well together or you're not working so well together. So with outsourcers, it's important to have the agreement that you share the same processes and steps, right? All right. Because with outsourcers as well, I think the communication, I mean, one of the key things when we see about feedback and coaching is we have to keep the communication channel open, and we have to know that it is just work, it's not personal, right? So if you can establish this concept, then we will hopefully have less problem, right? Okay, let's look at what Sarah is asking. For me, feedback can be given anytime. Nowadays, I think, especially with younger generation, because they are always on communication, always online, always more comfortable with being communicated all the time. So you can give feedback immediately when you see something, or you can do it weekly. I suggest sometimes companies do a stand-up meeting every morning. So it is during the stand-up meeting is when they actually make comments. Sometimes you don't have to direct it specifically to a person. It can be a broad general comment so that everybody learns from it, right? Sometimes it's not nice to be the person always singled out as making mistakes. So these are some of the steps, right? For feedback, right? And from time to time, you need to do your coaching as well, meaning that have some time, call your staff to talk to you and help them improve and better themselves. So I think that's very important as well, because the key idea here is to get talent, to retain talent, and to grow your talent, right? Retaining means keeping them happy. Growing your talent means that they need to learn, right? You don't want somebody who's still junior staff when they are 55, right? For example. Okay, so Dennis is saying different members have different type of learning, so I normally use their method of learning to coach them. I think that's good. So, as I was sharing earlier, not everybody are the same. Some people need more time to process. Some people are a bit faster. Some people maybe are more independent. Some people need more hand holding. So Dennis is right. So you would want to adapt the way to the staff that you have, right? But by learning the different various extreme and spectrum of how they are, right? So Seth is saying, as feedback structure, is it effective to tell what you do wrong? That teacher style confrontation, not confronting, but simply letting them know by memos provided by the boss. If you ask me, Seth, the best way is to actually talk to them, but not to tell them that they are wrong. Tell them their action is wrong. So as we shared about the structure of giving feedback, is always to use your observation. Where did you observe that they have done wrong, right? For example, you send a lot of messages and you know that there is a deadline coming in and they are not responsive. It is not office hours, but you have to know that the world does not stop because of that. And we have to need some understanding, because there's sometimes where there may be less work, there's time that where there is more work. So I think the action of not checking your message and not replying, answering your calls is not acceptable. Right? If you were a boss, would you feel the same way if your employee treat you like that and then ask them to reflect? So I hope this doesn't happen again in the future. And if you need any help with this, please let me know. But please, we cannot have this, right? So that's one way, Seth, of addressing it. Again, never blame the person, right? Blame the thing that they have done. Name it specifically, right? Because uh, because you're still gonna work with them, and I'm sure while they may have one or two weaknesses, there are a lot of strengths as well, right? So Amalina, any apps or software that are useful for interview sessions? Uh, I don't use personally that many software with interviews, but nowadays because of the COVID thing, we do send calendar invites, we do use Zoom. I would suggest having a set of interview questions that you want to ask, preparing beforehand. But in terms of apps of software, I've used Bamboo HR in the past. I've paid about 400 ringgit for it, but I actually cancel it. It's actually a good system, but maybe for larger teams, for people with like 5 people and all that, maybe it's not that critical, right? So that system actually allow you to receive all the applicants, and you can sort them out, and then automatically send um, like interview invites or decline letter if you must, right? So that's some softwares are available. But what I know is Bamboo HR. Maybe there are other software as well. Okay, I do have a teammate that always like to corner. Being far from the other teammates, I did advise a few times with different words to him. Any idea that you might have, sir? I think with this type of thing, it's always a soft approach first, and then a very hard approach once everything fails, Alif. So maybe after some time, maybe you can have a heart-to-heart talk with your teammate, because I know it's different with co-founders or different with shareholders, right? So maybe you can ask them that uh, this is not working. So if there's no improvement, then maybe we need to part ways. Or I think if they don't go and it's so troublesome, if your company is still at very early stage, you can just start a new company, I guess. I mean, worst case scenario, but not without addressing it. I mean, understanding their viewpoint first, right? Okay, Yang Rong is asking, how to promote self-learning in a team, especially when they waste so much time on social media without purpose or self-development? Yes, I agree with Dennis here. Yang Rong, you asked a very good question. For me, it depends, right? Some organizations, I know they ban social media altogether. I try not to ban it until it becomes a problem. But the key thing is to motivate your employees. For me, it's important for them to know that, I mean, nowadays it's very different. Some staff, where they are very low level, I think they are not very motivated. What they do is they just come for the job for the paycheck. And for startups, I actually hope that that shifts, or ideally you don't hire those people, right? There are people who just there and think that it's just an employee-employer relationship. So the key thing is to make sure that your organization is actually going somewhere. There is a mission, or what I call this is mission-driven organization versus profit-driven organization. Profit-driven organization, maybe the company is looking after making a profit and the staff is just looking after making some money, right? Maybe there are companies that want to hire that, but more and more companies that act like that will fail. Why? Because the world is changing. I think because of I think people are more aware of social, environmental issues and all that. So they want to work at an organization that shares their value, right? That cares for the environment, that does minimal or no impact on on society, and provide positive impact on society and all that. So to encourage team learning, sometimes the team member needs to see that they are part of the team, they are going to grow with the team, they believe in the vision of the founders. So then you have people who are highly motivated, at least between 9 to 6, right? The problem with people with social media is because they are not that type of people. Maybe they're not people who think so much. Maybe if they are like that, they're more suited to basic job and maybe a lower salary. But if if they are growing and improving, then as a business owner as well, you can reward them accordingly, right? I hope I'm making sense there, Yang Rong. Or if you have anything that you want to add, I agree with you. I give an example, McDonald's, right? When you're working at McDonald's, you know, the people who does serving at McDonald's and all that, they can't even carry their phones, right? Meaning that they have to keep their phones in the locker or somewhere else. Number two, they can't even sit down, right? Working at McDonald's, the SOP is the staff must always stand up for as long as they work, right? Although sometimes people don't follow the rule, they still go at the back, and maybe I'm just assuming here. But if there is a problem, then as the business owner, you can set up rules, right? But at the same time, trust is also very important, right? For me, I think that level of trust can also keep people motivated, that you know that they are smart, they are university graduates, they are able to think for themselves, they are adults. So they should look at improving themselves, they should look at not wasting time, they should see that this not just benefit the business, but also benefits you. Just to share, Dennis, huh? Okay, just to share, in my office, we do have working hours, 9 to 5:30, but I also allow flexible hours, but everyone understand the task, and everyone understand to be task oriented and get the daily task time done. It sounds good if everybody's on the same page, right, Dennis? I think from what I'm hearing, if everybody is task oriented and complete their task in a timely manner, means that you have done something right with your hiring, right? If your staff is also staying there, meaning that they are motivated, maybe they share your vision for the business that you created. So that's great. I think it's quite unique that you have a 9 to 5:30. Many organizations either start at 8:30 to 5:30 or 9 to 6 p.m. So maybe that's also quite generous of you there, right? Because if you take 8 hours, right, 9 to 12 is 3 hours, 2, 10, 9, 10, 11, 12, 3 hours, and then 1, say 4 hours, and then 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is another 4 hours, right? All right. So flexible hours is fine as long as people are responsible, right? Because I know organizations like some of my clients, right? When they do Skype calls with or they do Skype training with their staff, they force them to switch on the camera because they don't trust that they are there at the training session, that they're not outside or not sleeping or not watching Emily in Paris or whatever, right? So again, it is a balancing thing. I think for me, I will always try to trust first, but once the trust is betrayed, then I will reduce my trust and use other measures. But there are some places where they don't trust first, but you earn the trust. So again, I believe in, as we talked about earlier on in this session, it is about empowering them. But that empowering thing has to be demonstrated before you are able to delegate to them, right? Sarah is saying trust should be very expensive. Yes, trust is quite valuable. I think in your office, there's so many reasons for trust. Like for example, or in your company. For example, yesterday Nisha said that, what if my staff steal my recipe, right? So that's also come in line with the integrity of the people that you hire. So integrity is very important, right? Dennis is saying switch on camera is a challenge in online training. Yes, maybe it depends on it depends. Like for me, even when I was teaching at university last time, I always treat my students as adults. Although it is nice to get 100% engagement and participation, sometimes maybe they are shirtless, I do not know, at home, and they don't want to switch on their camera. But again, these are challenges that come with online training, but there are fun things as well, like what we did early on with the Jamboard, right? So I think there are opportunities and at the same time challenges when it comes to online training. But for some of you who haven't hired any staff, please bear in mind that in order to grow, it's not easy. You don't have to hire 100 people or 10 people at one go. You can start with 1 and 2, and you can see the value there. As I shared early on, the productivity per staff in Malaysia is about 75,000 ringgit. So if you have 2 staff, that's about 150,000 ringgit. If it's 3 staff, it's about 225,000 ringgit, thereabout, right? So usually the revenue size or the capacity of a company grows together with the team size and the equipment size, technology, and all that. So in order to grow, I think we need to consider, even like Norazita was sharing earlier, hiring part-time staff, for example, right? If you don't feel that you need somebody 8 hours, every day, right? All right. So we can take in some more questions, but before we move, maybe we can take a selfie again. Sorry, guys. It's one of the things with the online training. Can everyone help me and switch on the camera? How come some of you have your names appearing and some don't? Like Crystal have her name in, but some do not have. All right. Okay. There's some blurry image here. Seth is there. Seth, are you outside? You're wearing a mask, or do you wear the mask all the time? Right. It's always good to be safe, right? Okay. I'm going to allow for people to switch on their camera or to put on their headscarf. Huh? Maybe that's one of the reasons, Dennis, that they are not switching on their camera, because aurat mungkin. But I've had fun. Huh? It's already the 8th session, believe it or not, right? Time flies so fast. Huh? I would love to meet all of you physically, but as such that we need to be safe. Huh? I think most of my, I think not just most of the multinational companies, they are going on a virtual mode, even at work, not just for training. Okay, I'm going to take 2 shots. Huh? 1 shot done. Let's take another one. All right. Smile. All right, great. Any other questions? If you don't have questions, this is the survey for this week, just to learn whether you found the subject of managing a team useful. Actually, to be frank, there are a lot of accelerators where I've been involved in the past as well, or boot camps and all that. Sometimes they don't cover this topic, but I find it to be a very important topic, because in reality, a business leverages on money, leverages on people, right? So just as important as raising funds, it is important to have the people who are able to support you in executing your work, right? It's not easy. Getting talent is not easy, right? You may get like 500 applicants or 1,000 applicants, and for all you know, there might just be one that fits your bill, right? So you would hire that one person, or maybe 2. Then you can start to assess between the 2, right? Okay. Okay. Thanks, Sarah. No worries. Don't worry about the selfie thing. It is not compulsory. It's just a fun thing that people do when they are online. But next week as well, maybe we'll do the Jamboard as well. I think that was fun, right? So what I'll do is I'll capture the Jamboard screen and post it on the WhatsApp as well, together with the selfie today, right? Just a safe keep, and also for us to see what the outcome from today's session. Yes, Jamboard is very good. We actually explored Mural as well, but Mural you have to pay like $12 a month. It's free for 30 days, But thank God for Google. I'm so happy with Google actually. Google give us a lot of free stuff, right? I hope it remains free. Although I had a warning that my Gmail was up to 15 gig. So they say if I want to use more, I have to pay, but I deleted and cleared my Gmail. But generally, Google is excellent. Huh? So thank you so much, guys. It's already 4:25. We exceeded it by half an hour. I actually had somebody commented in the survey that they wish it was longer. So maybe that person got what he or she wished for. All right. Please mind the survey here, the survey link here, and I'll try to type it. On the chat group as well. Huh? So appreciate your time. I look forward to seeing all of you next week as well. Kind of sad that it's ending next week for the webinar. Hopefully, we'll see each other in the future. Bye, guys. Thank you so much. Have a nice day. Have a nice balance of your weekend.